We're out here today at Fern Glen Park to address an issue that is very concerning for the environment, and that is the spread of invasive plants. And we're focusing specifically on one plant today. It's called air potato. And if you look behind me, you'll see the vines of the air potato, the large heart-shaped leaves, which are very pretty in their own way, but they unfortunately do damage to the native trees, native plants. Any bromeliads or any orchids that might be growing in any of these trees will be choked out and eventually can actually do damage to the trees themselves too. It's been a very difficult task trying to control this because the air potato, as the name says, actually gets a potato. This is what drops to the ground, and generated from this potato are new vines then, and these plants produce enormous numbers of potatoes, so we get enormous numbers of vines that cause a lot of problems. The only really way to deal with this is chemical control or mechanical control by pulling the vines and picking up these air potatoes. There is, however, a new tool in our arsenal now. There's actually a beetle that has been discovered that thrives on eating air potato, and that's what we're here today to do, is to release some of these beetles, try and help us control the air potato vine. And I have with me here Min, who's with the USDA. So if you could maybe just talk to me a little bit about some of the measures that have been taken to make sure that the air potato beetle doesn't get out of control itself.
Well, these air potato beetles have been tested thoroughly on all the ecologically and environmentally important plant to Florida. And this is not the only one that we released. We released a couple of Melaleuca insects. Now we begin to see the impact on Melaleuca. This has been about 18 years. We're pretty sure we did the thorough test and will not go to any other plants. And these beetles came from the place where these plants originally came from. These beetles are from China, and also we have from Nepal. So that's part of the region, that part of the world that this came from. But also this Dioscura is also native to Africa too.
Okay, so what we're looking at here now are the larvae of the air potato beetle, and this is what actually does the damage to the plant. Is that correct? It's the larvae that eats the air potato. You can see here the way they actually eat the leaf itself. All right, so these are red beetles. And you can see here too on the air potato leaves that they are also feeding on the leaves, maybe not as voraciously as the larvae are.
A lot of this, when they emerge, the young ones, the young adults come out of the soil or cocoon, they need to feed for 5 to 7 days. So once they mate, that we know that they are ready to lay eggs. So now that we release in here, so if you come back, say by tomorrow or day after tomorrow, you will see some cups. So, usually it goes somewhere around 4,000 eggs in the lifetime of the female, one female. Many of these will go into the Doppler or dead leaves of the vine, or anywhere even in the other areas in the DOP, on the fourth floor, anywhere, they'll hide. Because they also have a lot of predators, get eaten by lizards, and some of them will survive, and many of them will die because they will get older. The one that produced earlier will get older and they will die. About 7 to 10 days they will feed like this, and then they become fat, and then they drop in the soil and they make a cocoon in the soil, and then there they will stay another 16 days, and then they emerge as an adult. They go through the process called metamorphosis.
So this one here that we're looking at now is the last instar, basically.
Yeah,
it's going to get ready to drop to the ground
and
form a cocoon where it will then metamorphose into an adult, into the red beetles that we saw before that were released.
It's a beautiful soil for them too. That's the kind of soil we use to produce these beetles in the lab. This is kind of, see how friable it is? So this is where they'll wrap around.
Very easy for them to get down in there.
Exact, and wrap around and make a cocoon. Mm-hmm. So this is very good sign. When we live in the one place, the benefit to this is they will concentrate in one side. They come out, all the adults, male, female, will be starting together, and there's a lot of food here, feed around, and then start producing their eggs again. You will see no difference when these leaves are chewed up. They'll open up and they start growing up. The vegetation underneath. But now, what happens to the tubers that underground? See, up here in the air is the air potato, but there are real thing is underground, tubers. The idea is, if we can cause chronic damage to these vines, all the food that goes to this tuber is from the vines. So if you don't give them food, we expect them to slow in growth, not being able to produce vines. They can only push vines so many times, right? And then also, once they get really weak, they start rotting.
So we're going to take a detailed shot of this one area here, the way it looks today. And then about 3 or 4 weeks from now, we're going to come back out and we're going to revisit the exact same location, and hopefully we'll be able to see a difference here, see some of the effect that the beetles are having on the air potato. We're out here at Fern Glen Park. We released the air potato beetles out here about 3 to 4 weeks ago, and we want to just document what, if any, effect the beetles are having on the air potato. And the first thing, which is very encouraging, we're actually not even anywhere near, we're about 200 yards away from the release site, and we just discovered a pair of air potato beetles on the exterior of the park here. So all on their own, they've actually spread out and moved away from the initial release site. So that's very encouraging for us. All right, so we're here at the original release point where we let out the beetles and the larvae several weeks ago. I think stating that the damage that the beetles have done to the air potato, stating that it's dramatic, is not exaggerating. You can see all these leaves here that have been basically eaten up, chewed through, making really the air potato plant pretty much struggling to be viable, and that's exactly the goal. And it's not just this location that we're looking at here. If I look around in all directions here, you can see significant damage that's been done to the air potato leaves by the beetle and their larvae. So there is no damage to any other plants whatsoever. It really is completely restricted to the air potato here. There's one right over here that pretty much has finished the leaf that he's on. So right here, it's a little hard to see because they're very tiny, but there's on the underside of this air potato leaf that's curled over, there's little yellow eggs, and these are air potato eggs, air potato beetle eggs. So the significant thing is, you see in some cases they're utterly and thoroughly destroying the leaves, but by putting all these holes in the leaves, it's weakening the air potato plant. And the consequence, which is positive for us, is that the air potato plant doesn't have the energy that it's going to need to produce the above ground tubers, so that next year there'll be less potatoes on the ground, which then would turn into new plants. So the weakening of the plant really is significant, even if it's not a complete destruction of the plant. Here's actually 2 air potatoes now mating. So that's going to produce the eggs that we saw earlier, which will develop into the larvae and then eventually into new adults. So here we actually have a leaf that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 larvae of different stages that are feeding. So we're very happy with the result. Unfortunately, this will be my last video that I'm doing for the city of Coral Springs. I am getting ready to retire. This is actually my last week at work. But I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody for their interest over the years, and also to introduce my successor, who's going to be taking over. This is Casey Lee. She will be taking over the city forestry position and be doing things of this nature, as well as helping residents and business people with their tree issues and tree problems. And so hopefully, Casey, you want to say a couple words?
I appreciate this opportunity. Mark, I have some very large shoes to fill. And bear with me, all residents, as I learn everything that Mark knows and has been doing.